week one of the fantasy football season, and his quarterback starts its every matchup this week. So with the season finally here, I'm going to go through every matchup and every starting quarterback to see who I would start or sit in my lineup, or possibly be a fringe option where you're 50-50 and don't know if you want to start the player or not. First game Thursday night, the opener, Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagle, defending champs in this one NFC East matchup. Dak Prescott, I'll give the start. This Cowboy team, I think, they're going to be trailing early and often in this game, and he's got great weapons. CeeDee Lamb, obviously, they traded for George Pickens this offseason, which was a good move. Jake Ferguson at tight end. So I think Dallas, they're going to be trailing, and Dak Prescott's going to work his way into points, and also the running back room over there in Dallas just isn't good at all with Javonte Williams, Sanders, and Jaden Blue. Jalen Hurts, he was a top 3 to 5 range quarterback. Fantasy owners took him in their fantasy drafts, and he's a guy that's going to get the rushing yards, he's going to get the touchdowns. And this week versus a Cowboy defense that obviously just traded their best defensive player in Parsons, it's going to be an easy day for Hurts, I believe. Chiefs at Chargers, Friday night ball game, which is nice to see early in the season. Once again, Mahomes, I know last year the numbers weren't great. We know Rashee Rice, he suspended the first 6 games of the season, but I think Mahomes, he'll go out there, he'll get things going, and I think this passing game will improve this season. We're worthy entering his second season in the offense. Kelsey, another year over there, and now with Pacheco healthy, I think it helps the offense overall. And Mahomes, he's always had this Chargers number throughout his career. So he's a start. Justin Herbert is a tough matchup versus a good defense in Kansas City. Herbert last year, great year, no doubt about it. Interceptions were low, but I just think Herbert, he was a quarterback taken late in fantasy drafts for the most part. And I know they got Keenan Allen back this offseason. We know Ladd McConkey's there. Backfield, Damari and Hampton, I'm big on him coming into the year. But this is a tough matchup, and like I said, the ceiling the last couple seasons just hasn't been high for Herbert. Miami Dolphins at the Indianapolis Colts. Tua, he's a fringe option for me going into the week. Throughout his career, he hasn't been that great on the road. I know obviously this whole offense is back. Devon Achane, calf injury, but he should be able to go. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Darren Waller, he should be ready as well for this Miami Dolphin team. But Tua throughout his career hasn't been great on the road. And like I said, with his injury concerns, he's a quarterback that went undrafted in a lot of leagues, is Tua. So right now, even in a matchup that's pretty decent on paper at the Colts, he's a fringe option. And Daniel Jones, even in a good matchup versus a Miami defense that's lost tons of players in training camp and preseason, I can't trust Daniel Jones. He beat out Anthony Richardson in this job, but it's just a weak QB room over there in Indianapolis. Pittsburgh Steelers at the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers goes back to New York with a fitting way in week 1 here with his new team in Pittsburgh. Obviously, they got DK Metcalf, him and Rodgers. That's a decent 1-2 combo over there in Pittsburgh. You got a tight end, Jonnu Smith, they traded for. Pat Freiermuth is the backup in the backfield, Warren and Caleb Johnson. But this Jet defense pretty good. And let's face it, Rodgers, in terms of fantasy football, he hasn't really been relevant the last 2-3 seasons. I know he could go out there, have a good game, stick it to his former team, but I just don't see him putting up big numbers. He's a sit. Justin Fields, he's a fringe option. Steelers, one of the best defenses in the league, but Fields, one of the better running quarterbacks in the league. And last season, with the mentioned Steelers, his former team now, I think they limited him running the football, where he's a lot of conservative and safe play calling over there in Pittsburgh. Where I think this season the Jets gave him 2 years, $40 million. They're going to tell him go out there and play your game. So with the rushing upside, and he still has a good number 1 option in Garrett Wilson in the receiving room, and Breece Hall, a solid running back out of the backfield. I think Fields all season long, at worst case, is a fringe option. Like I said, even in a bad matchup versus a great defense like Pittsburgh, the rushing yards will be there. Carolina Panthers at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Bryce Young, he's a sit for me in this one. I know they traded Adam Thielen, but Ted Ora McMillan, I think it's going to be a big rookie season for him, and he's going to be a true number 1 target for Bryce Young. And I know this Jaguar defense isn't great, but coming into the year, no one really drafted Bryce Young in your basic 10, 12-team league formats. And this week, even in a decent matchup on paper, I don't trust him. He's a sit. Trevor Lawrence, a fringe option. Lawrence, it could be a bounce-back season. The last 2 years have been a struggle with injuries and bad play. And now to get Liam Cohen in there as the head coach, I think this offense is going to operate pretty well and be similar to, obviously, the type of playbook and schemes he ran over there with the Bucs. And they got great receivers. Brian Thomas, Heisman Trophy winner, Travis Hunter. Backfield, not great. Travis Etienne, Bigsby, Bashal Tootin, and then at the tight end position, Bretton Strange. But I think this week in a matchup versus a defense that just isn't that good, he's a fringe option. Arizona Cardinals at the Saints. Kyler Murray, he's got the rushing upside. He's got good options in the offense. Trey McBride, one of the best tight ends in the league. Obviously, Marvin Harrison, a wide receiver, Connor out of the backfield. So he's got good players to play with. And obviously, this is an indoor game in New Orleans where they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. So I like Murray this week as a start. Spencer Rattler said he won the starting quarterback job, but he don't have fantasy appeal as Rattler. I know they got some decent options in offense. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, but two injury-prone players over the last few seasons. Kamara out of the backfield. But Arizona this week, I think, goes in there, plays good football. And we've seen enough of Rattler where he's an erratic quarterback and he turns the football over a lot. New York Giants at the Commanders, Russell Wilson is sit. He won the job in training camp over Jameis Winston and the impressive rookie Jackson Dart in preseason. And Dart, as the year goes on, might take over the starting job. But this week, a tough matchup at the Commanders, a team that prides themselves on defense. Obviously, last season was a breakout year for this Commander team, and I just can't trust Wilson in your regular leagues. Jaden Daniels, he's a must-start, top 3-4 quarterback off the board. The rushing ability is only second to Lamar Jackson going into the year. Now you got Terry McLaurin back after the holdout. Got Deebo Samuel, got Zach Ertz back from last season. Krosky Merritt, they're big on him coming into the year. Austin Eckler. So this offense, they're back and even better adding Deebo Samuel to this offense. And this week in a matchup versus the Giants, I think Jaden Daniels goes out there, has a good game. Tampa Bay Bucks at the Falcons. Baker Mayfield, one of the better passing quarterbacks in yards last season, even cracked 40 touchdowns on the season. Mike Evans, he's back once again, 11 years in a row, 1,000 yards. We know Godwin's still out, but they got the impressive first-round rookie Emeka Egbuka, and this could be a high-scoring game indoors over there in Atlanta. And Bucky Irvin out of the backfield, a good receiving back. So Baker, he's a start for me. Michael Penix is sit. I think Penix, as the year goes on, he could be a fantasy option, but we have to see how it plays out with Penix. He's got a good offense as well. Bijan in the backfield, one of the better backs overall and receiving backs in the league. Drake London, obviously. Darnell Mooney had a good year. Kyle Pitts, I don't expect him to do much this season. He's just been a bust, unfortunately. But like I said, we got to see a few games out of Penix before I even put him in the fringe option at times. Bengals at the Browns, Joe Burrow start each and every week. Two stud receivers, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown. We saw last season when healthy, even though a lot of games they were trailing early and often, and he had to throw the football 50, 55 times. But this week at Cleveland, obviously with Myles Garrett, one of the better pass rushers in the league, they might put pressure on him. But Joe Burrow, he goes out there and he gets the job done. And he was a top 5 quarterback drafted. Joe Flacco was sit. Flacco maybe in the deepest of leagues, you'll think about it, or 2 quarterback super flex leagues. They could be trailing in this game. And we know this Bengal defense isn't good, where they could put points on the board. And he's got capable playmakers in Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku, Cedric Tillman. But Joe Flacco in this spot, you're just not going to have confidence starting them. Vegas Raiders at the Patriots, Geno Smith's a sit. Raider offense with Pete Carroll as the head coach. Chip Kelly is offensive coordinator. Definitely she should be improved bringing Geno Smith in this season. Drafting Ashton Ginty, Amari Cooper, they signed him last week, even though I don't think he'll be ready to do a full workload early. I know Jacoby Myers requested a trade, but this week in a matchup in New England, cross-country trip, I just don't think Geno Smith's an option. Drake May, a fringe option versus the Raiders. This Raider defense isn't that good. I know it's led by Max Crosby, but their defense that's given up tons of points over the last few seasons. And Drake May, a lot of people liked him coming into the season as a sleeper. Guy's got rushing upside. He's got a good arm. They did add Stephon Diggs, even though I don't know what he's got left in the tank. And if he's 100% coming off an ACL injury. So May, even in a good matchup on paper, I'll play it safe a little bit. He's a fringe. 49 in his at the Seahawks NFC West Division matchup. Brock Purdy a start. Even with the injuries and guys gone over there in San Francisco. We know Ayuk's out. Jennings, we don't know if he's going to play in this game. So it's down to Ricky Pearson as the number 1 wide receiver, looking like he's still got Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. I still think one of the best backs overall in the league, even though he was out most of last season. Got George Kittle, one of the best tight ends. I think they go in there. This could be a high-scoring game between 2 division rivals. And Brock Purdy got paid, and he's also another quarterback that he's been shown he could rush the football as well. We saw it last season. Sam Darnold, he's a sit. I know Darnold last season had a monster year, but we saw him gas out towards the end of the year with Minnesota. And now with a new team, new system, and having to get rapport down, we'll see if Darnold could do what he did last season. But I highly doubt it, where he had a monster year in pretty much a winner-go-home type of season it was for Darnold, where if he couldn't get the job done last season, he wasn't going to get paid. Now he got paid in the offseason. They got good options. Obviously, Jackson Smith and Najigba, Cooper Kupp, I think he's got something left as well. Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet in the backfield. So they got options over there in Seattle. But this week versus San Francisco, I can't go in there trusting Sam Darnold. Then he was a quarterback undrafted in your basic leagues as well. Tennessee Titans at the Broncos, Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward, he could have some fantasy option as the year goes on. But this week in a tough matchup versus one of the best defenses in the league, I can't trust them. And they're limited offensively. Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett, not great options. Chigga Kwangwo, Tony Pollard in the backfield. And with a tough matchup at Denver, he's a sit. Bo Nix, he's a start for me in this game. Bo Nix, breakout rookie season, another quarterback that could run the football, get rushing yards. And they added to this offense as well this offseason, drafting R.J. Harvey, signing J.K. Dobbins, who we know has been a solid veteran running back, even though injuries have always been a problem. Cortland Sutton re-signed him to an extension, drafted Pat Bryant and Evan Ingram they brought in free agency. So I like this offense. Sean Payton, now that he's got more weapons to his disposal, I think Bo Nix can have even a better year his second year than he did rookie season. He's a start versus a mediocre Titan defense. Lions at the Packers, this could be a high-scoring game between two division rivals. And now, obviously, with the Parsons deal, a lot of people think the Packers are the favorites in this division, but I still think it's the Lions division, in my opinion. And this ball game, first week of the season at Green Bay, like I said, this could be a high score. I got Goff as a starter. I know Ben Johnson left, but this offense is loaded. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Gibbs, Montgomery in the backfield, Jameson Williams. So all their returning players are back. Jared Goff's a gunslinger. Last season, over 4,000 yards, over 35 touchdowns. And this week, even versus a good Green Bay defense, I think he goes out there, has a nice game. Jordan Love, a fringe option. Jordan Love last season took a step back after his first year as a starter a couple years ago. He went in and put up some big numbers, no doubt about it. Now they drafted Matthew Golden. We know Romeo Doubs still there. Jaden Reed, obviously, for this Green Bay Packer team. Tucker Kraft, pretty decent tight end. Jacobs in the backfield. But this week, I don't love it a lot for Jordan Love. And he was another quarterback where he went very late in fantasy drafts. So this week in a division matchup, and Love, he's been hit or miss over the last season here. I'll have him as a fringe option. Houston Texans at the Rams, I think this could be a high-scoring game between these two teams. C.J. Stroud, I know he had a bad sophomore season last year, no doubt about it. But I think this year he could bounce back. I know they added more to the receiving room and lost a couple guys. Tank Dell out for the season, breaking his leg versus the Chiefs late last year. Stephon Diggs leaving in free agency, going to the Texans. But they did add Christian Kirk in a deal. They drafted Jaden Higgins, who I think could have a good rookie season, and the other rookie, Noel, as well. Dalton Schultz still there. Obviously, the stud receiver, Nico Collins. So a lot of good weapons in this offense here for this Houston Texan team. And this Ram defense has been hit or miss over the last few seasons. So I think Stroud, if you drafted him late, I would have confidence in him this season as being a quarterback that could bounce back. Matthew Stafford is sit. Texans, they got a great defense, one of the better units in the league, in my opinion. I know he's got two stud receivers, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams out of the backfield. But I just think Stafford's not 100%, even coming off pretty much a preseason where he didn't get a lot of touches and reps. Is Matthew Stafford in training camp, and obviously didn't play any preseason games, but a bulging discs in his back and a bad back, especially at his age. There's going to be some games, especially where it's going to be tough for him to go in there and be 100%, and obviously have a lot of on his throws. So this week in a tougher matchup versus a good Texan defense, even with great receivers, he's a sit. Baltimore Ravens at the Bills, I expect this to be a high-scoring game. These were the top two quarterbacks taken off the board in fantasy. So Lamar, obviously, easy start. Josh Allen, easy start, even in a tough matchup versus a good defense. And then Monday night to close it out for week one, Minnesota Vikings at the Bears. Two young quarterbacks going at it. J.J. McCarthy, first time as a starting quarterback after he missed all last season with injury. I think as the year goes on, he's going to be solid as McCarthy. But going into week one, I just have to see what McCarthy does. We know he's got the great options. Justin Jefferson just traded for Adam Thielen. TJ Hawkinson, a good backfield, Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, no doubt about it. But I think this week here, you just take a wait-and-see approach. And if he goes out there in the bright lights on Monday night, has a good game, J.J. McCarthy, he's definitely someone as the weeks go on to consider in your lineup. And Caleb Williams, very tough matchup versus a good defense in Minnesota this week coming in. Caleb Williams, a lot of growing pains in his rookie seasons, but offensively on paper, this team's pretty loaded. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden in the receiving room. Then tight end, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet. Loveland a top 10 pick this season. And then the backfield, DeAndre Swift back there as well. So they got all the options, especially with Ben Johnson as the head coach, one of the better offensive minds in the league. But like I said, with a tough defense and Caleb Williams, the reports out of camp haven't been great. And last season was up and down for him. He's a sit this week. So that's quarterback start sits every matchup for week 1 of the fantasy football season.